Coming up, Everyday Paranormal heads to Alcatraz prison, famous for its history of violence and alleged paranormal activity.
They found him dead the next morning.
Lights out.
This is scary.
What the hell's that?
Will the team discover what's haunting the rock?
His sentence was isolation until the day he died.
Or will fear give the ghost of Alcatraz the upper hand?
Somebody in here?
Okay, I definitely just heard a groan.
We are the Kling brothers, and we believe that science holds the key to unlocking the secrets of the dead.
We formed an investigation team called Everyday Paranormal. Our mission, visit the most haunted places in America, find evidence, and test new theories to probe the existence of the afterlife.
This is Ghost Lab.
The Ghost Lab's next investigation takes the team to San Francisco, home to one of America's most notorious prisons, Alcatraz.
We're on the docks, Port of San Francisco, getting ready to load up a boat and head out to Alcatraz. We're talking Alcatraz. You know, Al Capone was out there, Birdman, you know, Robert Stroud, you know, all the famous things that happened out there. You know, you're also talking about just loads of paranormal activity. When I first came to Alcatraz 4 years ago, I got one of the best EVPs I've ever heard. This time, I'm excited to get the whole team in there to cover the place. Not many people get to explore Alcatraz after dark. We have the run of the rock, and we're going to take full advantage of it.
This is totally different than anything we've ever done. I mean, you can tell we're putting life jackets on to go on investigation. Something's amiss. A lot of the amenities we use, like internet service and cell service, gone, not having it out there. So we have to think outside the box.
It's old school investigation in Alcatraz. We're going to prison.
To haul their extensive gear over to Alcatraz, the Everyday Paranormal team has chartered a ferry.
Logistically, Alcatraz is a nightmare. Since we can't bring the Ghost Lab with us, we're going to have to spend the nights on the rock investigating, and then come back and analyze our evidence on the shore during the daytime. It's going to be exhausting, but it's the only way we can get it done.
Look at that view of Alcatraz. That looks wicked with that fog rolling in like that.
Alcatraz was built in 1850 and functioned first as a military fort. When the Civil War broke out in 1861, it was used to hold Confederate sympathizers. And once the war ended, all of Alcatraz was turned into a military prison. From 1934 to 1963, Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary housed some of America's most violent criminals, including Al Capone, Machine Gun Kelly, and Robert the Birdman Stroud. The island also saw its share of murders, suicides, and reported prisoner abuse. But Alcatraz doesn't just have a history of violence. It also has a long record of reported paranormal activity. Long before Alcatraz was a fort or a prison, local Native Americans called it Evil Island, and many who did time on the rock agreed. Moans, sobbing, and screams of pain were reportedly heard echoing through the walls. Both guards and inmates reported feeling sudden cold spots. Some even claimed to see apparitions. Today, Alcatraz is a national landmark, open to tourists. The prison, long shut down, but the claims of paranormal activity continue to this day.
I've been in solitary confinement, particularly cell 14, have heard low moanings, have heard sighs. At the same time started feeling chest pains and had shortness of breath.
We were investigating the hospital wing. There was a lull. It was silent. And what I heard was, "The dark is power."
How'd you like to be in handcuffs? And seeing that saying, oh, I'm going to be there for the next 10 years. Alcatraz was packed with the worst of the worst. It's a good bet that all the violence and misery imprinted itself on the environment, which could be a big source of the paranormal activity. I'm saying, we can go out there and get some good EVPs. That's one thing. but to figure out why it's happening, that's the other.
The Rock doesn't know what it's in for.
No.
All right, guys. Tonight's investigation is a big place. We have to be coordinated. All right, first thing we're going to do is, Steve, your Ghost Lab operation. The Ghost Lab's not here, so you're in charge of getting the headquarters set up. Hector, you're in charge of equipment, so make sure all of our EMF detectors are working, battered up. Steve, I know you've done a ton of research on Alcatraz, so we'll be relying on you since we don't have internet. Brad and I and Kate will be investigating. Let's get the headquarters set up, let's get the equipment up the hill, and we'll start investigating. All right.
Once inside the main cell house, the team begins to spread their electronic net.
So I need power and...
Not that one.
But Alcatraz presents them with some new challenges. Due to the sheer size of the prison, the team must set up their equipment selectively as they move through different areas of the building. They establish a basic substation in the mess hall, which is next to the prison's 4 main cell blocks, A, B, C, and D. They also station cameras at the end of key corridors to catch any possible movement.
The angle is like a 40, like right there.
It's Brad and Barry in solitary confinement, D block, Alcatraz prison.
My favorite.
Cell block D was the maximum security wing of the prison, where the worst prisoners were kept in solitary confinement. Known as the Special Treatment Unit, inmates here lived in 4 by 8 foot cells, furnished with just a sink, a toilet, and a twin mattress. The most unmanageable prisoners were kept in the hole, 6 cells lining the lower level of D block. Inmates in the holes saw almost no light, and they were never let out, not even for showers.
Man, this cell right here is where I got probably the world's best EVP. Okay, here we are in cell 14.
Barry to command.
Lab, go ahead.
Yeah, we're in solitary confinement in the D block. What's some claims back here?
It
Was reserved for the most troublesome prisoners.
and then 14D was
Reserved for the really special guests.
actually a pretty cool story from back in the day.
A guy by the name of McCain had spent about 3 years in solitary, and one night went to screaming and screaming and screaming. And
The guy just had some kind of strange thing in the cell with him. He was screaming. It was something dark with red eyes.
they found him dead the next morning.
With some kind of weird strangle marks on his neck.
10-4.
Whatever's in here, he's got a life sentence. He ain't leaving.
Next, Brad and Barry head to the darkest depths of Alcatraz, a place known as the dungeon.
Right now, Barry and Brad, we're in the dungeon area of Alcatraz. This is something that normally visitors don't see.
There's something about this place. It knocks you down a little bit, you know?
You know, normally coming in here, we're like, yeah, we're in. But this place is like, whoa.
When Fort Alcatraz was built in 1850, the dungeon was a barracks. As a prison, the dungeon became the place of ultimate punishment. Inmates were rumored to have been chained to the walls, fed only bread and water, and kept in freezing, pitch-black darkness. Finally, in 1942, it was ruled cruel and unusual punishment to keep inmates there, and the dungeon was closed.
Well, I know what's here. I know what's here. I heard it. I have it on audio. A lot of the paranormal claims are sounds. You know, that's something.
Did you hear that?
Yes, I did. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did. I caught it on my camera. It was humming.
It was
like right here.
Throw out a quick EVP.
Yeah, I got mine.
I'll let you record.
Somebody humming down here?
Bradbury Kling, Everyday Paranormal. Come to check the place out. Are there inmates from Alcatraz who are stuck down here in the hole? If you're stuck down here for all eternity, I feel sorry for you. It's one thing to be stuck down here while you're in prison. It's another thing to be here for all eternity. If you want to say something, say it now. You thought we just heard you. Tell us what your name is. All right, we'll be back.
As Brad and Barry head back to Katie at the substation, Hector, Steve Hawk, and Steve Harris perform a saturation sweep in D block, running audio recorders and blanketing the cells with still cameras to catch any possible apparitions.
Did you hear that?
Did you hear it yell?
I heard like a female scream.
Hey, Brad, where you guys at?
I'm with Katie by the game camera in D block.
Hey, Brad, Barry, did I hear like a...
You hear a yell?
A yell, like a lady, a female yell?
I didn't hear a yell. Holy... Whoa.
What the hell's that?
Whoa! I jumped out of my skin. The camera just ducked over. I jumped out of my skin. You saw it. You saw it.
It picked up and flipped.
It lifted up and
It lifted up and flipped.
I just know Kyle was pulling wires.
For him to pull, you'd have to pull hard to take the tension off that pull.
When you heard that noise, that bang, oh yes. Barry comes strolling out. No, well, it could be this and it could be that. And I was like, okay, yeah, but dude, I saw it fall down. I saw it slam to the ground. Katie was standing right next to me. She saw it too. Like if I was to walk up to it and kick it.
And it went up?
It went up and slammed. That was one of the coolest things I've seen.
Judging from what just happened with the camera, I think definitely there's aggressive spirits here, so I'm a little bit nervous about that.
With their preliminary work on the rock complete, the team returns to the mainland to review their findings.
We're all real tired. We're gonna pack up, get on the boat, get some rest, and review all of our evidence. We're talking dungeon now. Barry and I were in the third cell as you walk down in there. We heard a noise where it sounded like a moan or something.
Did you hear that?
Yes, I did. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did. I caught it on my camera.
Throw out a quick EVP.
Yeah, I got mine.
So here is, you asked the question.
Are there enemies from Alcatraz who are stuck down here in the hole?
Oh my goodness.
Did you hear that?
Absolutely.
This is original.
I can't forget what I have done.
Very classic of what a prisoner might say, maybe. He can't forget what he has done. He's guilty. His spirit is lingering in Alcatraz because he can't forget what he has done.
Class A.
Oh, totally.
Dungeon, Alcatraz. You can't beat that right
Well,
there.
dungeon, it's a hot place. I knew we get audio in D block, but also catching EVPs in the dungeon also makes sense because the dungeon and D block are the only places where prisoners were kept in solitary confinement. I can only imagine what it was like to be kept down in those cells for days or weeks at a time. So I'm going to talk to an expert on incarceration to see what impact this kind of treatment would have on the inmates down there, you know, and maybe their spirits are still active on the rock. Hi, Amy. We are at Alcatraz. They have an area that used to be part of what they call the Citadel, which was built back in the Civil War times. But they still use some of the old solitary confinement cells down there. It was complete black. There's no light that can come in. Could you tell me what goes through a prisoner's mind when they are incarcerated in such an environment?
A situation like that begins to have very powerful psychological effects on just about anyone, particularly after quite a bit of time in solitary confinement. You begin to see full-blown hallucinations, panic attacks. Folks begin to become disoriented. There's a mounting frustration that occurs that many folks have suggested is very likely to lead to aggression. In large part, many of the folks who are unable to comply with prison rules while they're incarcerated are often already struggling with mental illness. And so to put someone in solitary confinement who is already struggling